Now then, this morning I'm coming to you from Nur-Sultan, the capital city of Kazakhstan. Now if you knew the capital city of Kazakhstan and you thought it was called Astana, well, you would have been right up until about 2 months ago. This city just got a brand new name in March this year to honour the president who just retired. So it's not called Astana anymore. Welcome to Nur-Sultan. It's not the first time it's changed its name, and I'm sure it's not going to be the last either. In 1991, Kazakhstan gained independence from the USSR. The city was called Stalingrad, then it changed it to Akmola in 1992. Then they changed the capital city of Kazakhstan to Akmola in 1997. But then because Akmola kind of just means white grave or white tombstone, they thought that was a bit morbid. So in 1998 they changed it again to Astana, which is the Kazakh word for capital. And then yeah, 2 months ago they changed it once again to Nursultan, which is the first name of the president that just stepped down. So in the past 30 years alone, this city has been known by 4 different names, and the capital city of Kazakhstan has been in 2 very different locations. It moved from the south way up here to the north about 20 years ago, and by doing so it got the title the second coldest capital city on the planet. Year-round averages are somewhere between -4 degrees centigrade and +1 centigrade, and it can go in winter to as low as -50 degrees, and in summer up to +40. What a ridiculous climate. So it's not just the name that can't make its mind up, the weather doesn't know what it's doing either. What a nightmare. Oh, and just in case you were curious about which capital city takes the top spot on that world's coldest list, it's not Ottawa in Canada. That's what you were thinking. Doesn't even come close. The only capital city on earth to get as cold as this one or stay colder year round is Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia. So there you go. minus 50. What a stupid temperature. What's the point? Anyway, enough of all that. Let's kick off with some actual sightseeing, and we're starting with a banger. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world's biggest tent. But no, that's a legit title. It really is the biggest tent in the world, and it's one of the top 10 eco buildings on the planet, designed by a guy named Norman. Can't go wrong with a guy named Norman, can you? The way it's built on top of this like grass mound thing makes it look like, you know where the Teletubbies lived? That place, but after some 21st century happened to it and it got put on Grand Designs. It's pretty fat though. Its real name is Shatyr, and inside it's just this enormous shopping and entertainment centre thing, and it's a swanky one at that. It's really not what I thought I'd find when I first thought about coming to Kazakhstan. They've even got the hyper blaster from Pleasure Island down here. Look at this. So there you have it, Shatyr, a 500-foot tall tent full of dinosaurs and little theme park rides and shops. In there they've also got like an indoor beach thing, this special climate area where they keep it 35 degrees. It feels like you're actually outside on a beach, which is pretty mint, and I suppose they've got that because they don't have any beaches themselves, not proper ones anyway, near an ocean, because they are a landlocked country of course. And in fact Kazakhstan is the largest landlocked country on earth. It's a very grand place this, everything's just massive. Look at the size of that. I've got no idea what this thing is, but again it's quite enormous. Alright, I've done some detective work. I think the sign on the front just there says Cirque. And then right in front of it is a statue of a guy on a unicycle with an umbrella. So I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark and say it's probably a circus. I mean, of course it is, look at it. I should have known that all circuses are built to imitate spaceships, shouldn't I? What a peculiar building. Why are post-Soviet countries always so full of weird architecture? Do you know what? It's just dawned on me what that actually is. And I don't think it's a circus. We've seen the Hyperblaster. I reckon that's the Gravitron, innit? From Pleasure Island in Cleethorpes. What if, when Pleasure Island closed down, all the rides ended up here in Kazakhstan? If you don't know what Pleasure Island is, then, well, it sucks to be you. It was a theme park in Cleethorpes that closed down. But now I feel way more at ease that it's not just a weird spaceship building. Maybe it's a recycled Cleethorpes theme park ride. I'm now in an open-air museum called Atameken. Cost about 80 pence, 400 tenge, Kazakh tenge to get in. And it's just like a big outdoor museum, loads of miniature sculptures of famous Kazakh landmarks. It's pretty cool. This is a mint idea. I quite like this. I suppose the point is, I mean, Kazakhstan's ridiculously big, so if you haven't got the time to go and see them in full size, you can come see them in small form here instead. I think it's a pretty sick idea. Imagine the absolute scenes if I turned a corner and there was like a dock tower model, like at Legoland. Oh, the scenes. It's a pretty big place and all. Like it looks to me like Kazakhstan's got an awful lot of swanky buildings to shout about. Doesn't seem to be much of a system in a way of pathways. You just there's just paths going everywhere, to be honest. And nothing's being described. I don't really know what anything is, but it's still pretty like quiet, nice wander around, to be honest. This, the Baikonur Cosmodrome. See, now I can give you facts about places I'm not even going to visit because I've got a model of it here. The Baikonur Cosmodrome is the place from where the Russians sent the first man into space, Yuri Gagarin, and it's where Sputnik was launched from. It was a huge Soviet space thing, and it's one of only two that are still active today, capable of sending people into space, except the other one is in China. And I believe it was called Baikonur to mislead everybody else about where it actually is. And it's in Kazakhstan the whole time. See, facts about other bits of the country. Ah, I get it. I think I get it. I think it's all laid out like relative to each other. So you've got the south bit there with the mountains, which means that's the north. That's Nur-Sultan where I am now. Then you've got the west bit over there, east bit over there. I think I see what's going on here. I get it. By the way, if that's like the whole point and that's really common knowledge, then I'm soz for the penny, having only just dropped. But it's a pretty cool idea, that. I like it. It's like one big map of Kazakhstan. It's pretty mint. Yeah, that was good. Enjoyed that. Atameken Miniatures Park in Nursultan. It's pretty decent. I suppose it gives you a pretty good idea of the range of what Kazakhstan has to offer. Like I said earlier, it is a huge country. The 9th largest, in fact. Do you want to know how big it is from east to west? Nearly 2,000 miles, which is about the same distance as London to Istanbul. So yeah, it's that big. Behind me we have the remarkable Assumption Cathedral. Look at it. It's massive, it's shiny, it's new. As you probably know, in Soviet times, religion was quite well quashed. So a lot of the religious buildings you see, whether they're mosques or cathedrals, in places that used to be part of the Soviet Union, they're almost brand new, like this one. Look at it, it's brilliant. Stunning, absolutely stunning. This is a much less swanky bit. This is kind of more like what I thought I'd find in Kazakhstan. Hold on, I think I found my first stray dog of the trip. Here's a fun fact for you actually. The word for dog in Kazakh language is pronounced eat. Not sure what you're going to do with that information, but there you go. This is Nur-Sultan Mosque. It's the largest mosque in all of Central Asia. You can fit 10,000 people in there. I've said this before a lot of times in previous travel videos, but aren't religious buildings just absolutely the most intricate and impressive things on the planet? Look at it. Up to 70% of people in Kazakhstan identify themselves as Muslims, but despite the advantage and the mosques, you wouldn't really know it. I've not really seen anybody go into mosques, or at least not flock to them for prayer. I've not heard any calls to prayer or anything like that. It's a bit weird. Like, as you know, I've been to quite a few Islamic places, and normally it's very like apparent thing when you're in an Islamic state, but here they don't seem awfully bothered. It's just a bit odd. I've ended up back in the 22nd century again. I don't know what this is. There's just so much more like shiny and modern stuff than I expected. This big stick, that's not a flattering word, is it? This big monument is called Kazakh Eli, that's better, and it was put here to celebrate the independence of Kazakhstan in 1991, and because of that it was built to be 91 meters tall. Now I reckon that's pretty mint. I mean, it's still 3 meters shorter than the Dock Tower, innit? But you know, it's not bad. How about this for a panorama to sum up my surprise in Nur-Sultan and Kazakhstan? So they've got a massive mosque, big glass bowl thing, surfboard that plays videos, there it goes again, still at it, giant concrete rod, and then, and you're gonna love this one, they've got a pyramid. They've got a pyramid, boys. I'm just so like taken aback, I'm almost mesmerised by it all. How everything's just so incredibly huge. Look at this road, right? How many lanes does a road need? Maybe like 4, 6 if you're a motorway, 3 on each side. How many lanes do you reckon that road's got? 13. It's not even an even number. 13 lanes. Nursultan Nazarbayev became president of Kazakhstan from the moment it gained independence in 1991, and he kept that role all the way up until about 2 months ago when he surprisingly resigned. In that time, he's been responsible for the dramatic turnaround of the country. We've seen some signs of it today, how futuristic and progressive it's become, but also financially it's just become a really successful country, and he's responsible for that whole transformation. And that's why a couple of months ago, when he quit out of nowhere, they decided to rename the capital city after him. So he's also the guy to thank for a lot of the grand structures we've seen today, including this one. This is the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation. I want to live in a place called the Palace of Peace and Reconciliation. What a name! Interestingly, that was also designed by our mate Norman, who designed the big tent. So Norman's been a busy guy over here. And then we end up in the middle of the city where we started earlier today. This behind me, Bayterak Tower, might have caught a glimpse of it earlier, literally means tall poplar in Kazakh, as in the tree. And that thing on top of it is supposed to be a golden egg, in reference to an old mythological tale that says a bird lays an egg in a sacred tree, it brings happiness. And this one also is a nod to the history of this city, because it is 97 meters tall, built to commemorate the fact that this became the capital city in 1997. Anyway, that's about that. This is my one and only day in this city, in Nur-Sultan. So if you're watching this as a bit of a guide, it's worth bearing in mind that I've walked 18 miles today. So if you don't fancy that, you might want to spread it out a bit, come for an extra couple of days, visit some of the museums, wherever, just chill out a bit. But I think we've covered most of the key sites in this one. I reckon today's been magnificent. It's taken me completely by surprise, but after such a high dose of metal and glass, I think I need something green. So tomorrow I'm going to fly south to Almaty. It's still in Kazakhstan, but it's a 24-hour train journey otherwise, so I'm going to fly and then experience a very different part of Kazakhstan, hopefully. I hope this has been sufficiently insightful to those of you using this as a guide looking at coming, or to those of you who are just a bit curious about Kazakhstan. I hope we've all learned something today. That's the main thing, innit? If you got any feedback, any questions, be sure to get in touch. And yeah, here we are, back at Norman's tent where we started pretty much. Hope you've enjoyed. Cheers boys, see you in a bit.